The first look at the FlyBear FX9672 SR-72 DarkStar. It comes as a ready to fly. Mine came with 2 lipos. This is courtesy of my friends at Banggood. I want to thank them much for sending this for review. You get the plane, you got the transmitter, and the transmitter is a mode 2, so the throttle and rudder on the left hand stick and the aileron and elevator on the right hand stick. You've got your trim buttons for your aileron, your trim buttons for your elevator, your trim buttons for rudder and for your throttle. The button up on the top left hand shoulder of the transmitter is your rate button, so it does have a high and low rate. You've got 3 different modes on the gyro, A, B, and C. A is the most restrictive, okay, so it has the most restrictive bank angle and pitch angle on it. And then mode B is a bit less restrictive on the roll and pitch angle, and then C is the 3D mode. The 3D mode on this does still have gyro input. Okay, so I've checked out all 3 modes. There is no manual mode for this, but there is a 3D mode. I also noticed that there is elevon mixing with the throttle, so the more throttle you give it, the higher the elevator comes up. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll have to test it out and see. Okay, so here's the 2 lipos mine came with. They have the red JST connector on them. These are 2S 380 milliamp hour lipos. I don't know what the C rating is. It's not listed. My guess is it's somewhere between a 20C and a 25C is typically what you get with these lipos, with the stock lipos. I have some 400 milliamp hour 2S lipos that I'm also going to be testing out, and they're about the same weight as the 380s. So I have at least 4 lipos I'll be able to use in this plane. You get a 2S charger that you just plug into a USB port, plug your balance cable into the end of it. When the light goes off, it'll be fully charged. You get a manual for it. All right, so here is a picture of the board. All right, so you've got your battery power leads coming in at 7.4 volt. You've got your 2 servo leads coming off of the board here with the micro connectors plugged in. And then you'll notice that you've got a red power lead and a blue lead, and you've got a white power lead and a black lead. So just power and ground going to each motor. So these motors are brushed motors. They are not brushless motors. So the marketing material was a little misleading on this, but it's supposed to be a beginner plane. It is a dual EDF, even though it has brushed motors. It's a pretty inexpensive plane, so I am going to ding them for their marketing material, but we'll see how well this operates as an absolute beginner plane. Okay, typically these planes in fully stabilized mode and the 2 gyro modes, they're usually pretty easy to fly, pretty stable, especially since this plane, it looks like the entire airframe is a lift body. So I would assume that this is going to have really good slow flight capability, and it's going to be very, very floaty. But we'll test it out when we take it out for our first flight. Here's a picture of the inside of the duct with the brushed motor and fan, and you can see that it just has the 2 wire leads going to it, the voltage and the ground. So yeah, it's definitely a brushed motor. Alright, so I weighed mine. The airframe was 91 grams. The lipo, which is the 2S 380 milliamp hour, was 23 grams. So my all-up weight on this plane is going to be 114 grams. The protocol that it uses is the FX9672. If I remember correctly, I think maybe it was the J35 or the F35 plane that used that same protocol. But channel 1 is aileron, channel 2 is elevator, channel 3 is throttle, channel 4 is rudder, channel 5 is your high and your low rate, and channel 6 is your gyro modes. And then your gyro settings down here, -100 on whatever switch you're going to set it up for, you need a 3-position switch because there's 3 modes. Minus 100 on the switch, we'll put it into 6G mode, which is the most restrictive stabilized mode. And then 0 on the switch, we'll put it into 6G mode in the less restrictive mode. And then plus 100, we'll put it into 3D mode. Okay, so I was able to bind up to it with my TX16S, and I set up the gyro modes, I set up the rate button, and everything seems to be working just fine. So I don't see any problems with binding up to this with the 9630 protocol and setting up your gyro and your rate switches. All right, so we are back to the beginning. All right, so that's the specs on this plane. We'll take it out. We'll do a test flight in the next video. The first couple of flights I'm going to put on it, I'm going to use the stock transmitter, and then flights 3 and 4, I'll fly it with a TX16S, so we can see how well that works with a multi-protocol transmitter with, you know, better, smoother stick movement than with the little game controller style transmitter that it comes with. So for those of you with the multi-protocol transmitter, that's going to be an option for you. All right, so that's a wrap on this episode. Stay tuned for the maiden flight and additional flights on this little DarkStar EDF jet, and I will see you next time in the Tinkerz Lab.